Hello. Thanks for first introduction, and I will introduce myself now. My name is Peđa, and I will talk today about green transition, about green capitalism, and some alternatives as a degrowth, commons, and donut economy. And also, you will be with me whole first part of the day, because after that we will talk a little bit about some case studies of commodification of natural resources and what we can do. I can tell you a little bit who I am. I'm a journalist, researcher, and activist. I'm coming from one smaller town in Serbia, but last more than 10 years I'm living and working in Belgrade, and I finished master and bachelor studies in Faculty of Geography on Environmental Protection, and I'm also writing. I wrote a couple of articles and publications, mostly about air pollution and air as a commons, but also a little bit about food. And yesterday you met Elena. She's coming from Young Greens. Back in the days I was also part of Serbian Young Green, but I'm now a bit older. Now I'm old Young Green, but I still really believe in this green idea. And my focus of my work is mostly in energy and environmental things, but also this degrowth theory. But also I'm part of the different initiatives in Belgrade. I'm part of one energy cooperative. I can tell you also a little bit about that, and also I'm interested in, I'm a little bit into political activism and how to work on this green idea also on political level. This is a picture of our planet, Earth, or blue planet, how it's called. If you believe that Earth, it's circle, ball. It's not, if you believe it's flat, then we have problem with the whole this presentation. But also you see, Earth can be bigger or smaller, but it's limited, and there is physical limits of planet Earth. Still, in all these academical circles, there is a big debate how big are limits of planet Earth and how much resource we can use or other things, but no one can claim that there is no limits, because there is obviously physical limits of planet. There is like only 29% of land and almost 70% of sea and other things, and there is limited resources. And this is one of my favorite movies. I don't know how it's visible. Did you watch, or maybe some of you are too young when they didn't watch? It's Matrix. Great movie, at least first part of Matrix. After that, it's become more some kind of combat, not so philosophical movie, but in first part it's pretty interesting. And this is moment when this agent Smith, agent of Matrix, catch the Morpheus, and he explaining him that he studied human beings, and he studied and compared them with other species. And then in one moment Agent Smith claims that human beings are not mammals, or they are not similar to other species on planet Earth, because most of species on planet Earth, they live under some limits. They have ups and downs, but they stay under the limits. And there is only one species, which is, he compared human kind, and it's virus. And virus, it's have this exponential growth, taking everything from the host until host die, and then needs to find another host. And he's comparing this human race with viruses, and we saw also what can happen with virus, with whole COVID situation and everything. And as our host, he claims it's planet Earth. And I want to believe that human species is not like virus, and then we can stay also under our limits and to have some kind of social agreement to stay under the limits and to live better under these limits. But this is some, I don't know how it's visible, some of trends which are happening right now on planet Earth. And we have something which we call great acceleration, actually. You see how everything is rising here, from world population, from social economical to Earth system trends, from and social economical it's world population, GDP growth, foreign direct investment, urban population, energy use, water use, I don't know, paper production, international tourism, and all these things are happening really fast, especially after Second World War and especially after 2000s of years. But also with all this growth of these socio-economical things, it's coming growth of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, methane, how much tropical forest we are losing, how much domestic land we are using, and all other things. And it's impossible for a long time to stay on this growth. And this is actually not even slow growth, it's exponential growth. You know, exponential growth, it's different than linear growth. Linear growth, it's, you know, when you saving something and first day you have, I don't know, 100 dinars, and then the second day you have 200 dinars, and you are saving every day 100 dinars, and then on 10th day you have 1,000 dinars. And with exponential growth, if you start with, I don't know, 4 dinars, tomorrow you will have 16 dinars, and day after tomorrow you will have already more than 100, and yeah, I cannot even count. On day 10 you will have thousands and thousands of dinars, like tens of thousands or maybe hundreds. And we have right now this kind of exponential growth of everything. And as I said on first slide, we have limited resources. And by physical laws, you will in one moment break some boundaries which you have already, physical boundaries. And this is actually, it's happening right now. This is some, I think, 9 physical boundaries which we already broke some. And like these biochemical flows and biochemical pollution, because we are already, our system are really polluted with nitrogen and phosphates. It's coming from this artificial Jubre.
Mist or waste?
No.
What residue?
No.
Gorivo.
It's Jubrivo.
Fertilizer.
Fertilizers, yeah, thanks, you know, I completely forgot. Yeah, with artificial fertilizers. And also we have these climate problems, Elena already talked about that, but also we have a really big biodiversity loss. And we are living in a time of 6th mass extinction of species. Today, a lot of species disappearing every day. And you know, before when you had this mass extinction of species, it happened when, I don't know, meteor hit dirt or something like that. And now we have, by human work, we have this is happening. Also, we are on the limit of land use and also other fresh water use and how much other resources we have. And I will talk a little bit more about this some kind of donut model, but I'll go now to something else. And yeah, we are living in Holocene. This is the name of geological age of we are living. And you see on this slide we have a lot of them, and it starts, I don't know, from more than 3 billion years ago, and firstly we almost didn't have anything like in these geological layers. It's not work like that. Yeah. Firstly, we didn't know almost anything. Then we had this Paleozoic with some organism. Then we had this Mesozoic with Trias, Jura, Creta, when dinosaurs lived, and from which period we have most of our fossil fuels and other things, and then all other things. And human beings are living only few thousand years on planet Earth. We are one of the youngest species actually, but we managed to change even this geological surface. And you know, now when they dig, they found, like already found these mobile phones as and other things, and also our cities are completely changing landscape and everything. And now you have, like in some cities already 100 meters or bigger, this anthropogenic sphere. And a lot of times it's called also a new word, it's Anthropocene, by the how much people influence geological change. But also it's called Capitalism, because it's most of this it's created from beginning of capitalism actually, because capitalism it's pretty young system which is exists less than 200 years here, and but it's create a lot of damage. And then we have also this measurement, like how much resource we use on everyday level but like planet. And now we need like 1.7 planet Earth to live on sustainable way, but we don't have 1.7 planet Earth. And this is on global level. It's on when you calculate on a state level, it's even bigger difference, because I don't know, if everyone will live like Americans, we will need like 5 planet Earth. Or if everyone live like I don't know, people in Dubai or Qatar, we will need 10 planet Earth. And we are spending more and more resources, and you see only this little bit when it's changed on this little bit bigger green in 2020, but it's not because we did so much, but it's because whole lockdown, because coronavirus and everything. But after that, in 2021 and even in 2022, we already spent resources which Earth can reproduce for 1 year. We already spending in July. But it's also different. I don't have this slide. It's as someone mentioned today during the exercise. It's not a responsibility of everyone equally. It's depend from country where you live, but it also depends from which class you are coming. If you're coming from this 1% or 10% richest people in the world, that they are actually responsible much more than people who are poorer and who are coming from lower social classes. For example, for CO2 emission, which is main gas of climate change, richest 10% of planet are responsible like more than half of poorest part of the planet. And it's really big disproportion of responsibility, and because that we also need to talk about this historical responsibility, because for example nowadays China is producing more, its biggest producer of CO2, but also we need to count that Europe and USA are already for 200 years are producing a lot of CO2 emission, and also to calculate this, to not just limit everyone on equal level, because someone already used this opportunity. And yeah, Elena probably told you a lot about climate change. For me it's interesting what is happening, and this on the right corner picture, it's some stream, and it's not looking at anything special, but it's from Greenland, and this is place where they measure first time in the last 200 years that they had rainfall, and it's never happening that they had their rainfall. It was always freezing and snowy, and now it's starting, and even to speeding up, and we'll see, today we have 41 degrees, tomorrow we will have 41, 42, the day after tomorrow also. It's become really hard to live, and nowadays these air conditions, they are not any, they are become necessity, they are not anymore luxury good. I remember, at least if you live in cities, I remember like 20 years ago they were pretty luxury good, but now if you want to survive, especially if you are older or sick, you need this. And this is also happening with air pollution, because these air purifiers in a city is becoming also necessity, and like 5 years, 10 years ago no one didn't know about that. And now let's talk a little bit about transition and energy transition and social transition, which we need to make to live more sustainable. And when you're coming from Balkan, when you heard transition, especially if you're a little bit older, people are not so happy with when they hear transition, because most people remember this from transition period of 90s and early 2000s, when it's a lot of this privatization happened, and a lot of people lost their jobs, and a lot of bad things in their lives also happened, because they were hoping that we will have transition from socialist society to capitalist society, and we will live better. But for many people, they are not living so much better. Many of them lost their jobs and other things, and a lot of times this transition word have a negative meaning in our society. And I think it's up to us also to reinvent this word and to give this word a different meaning. And this is something, what is energy transition? I will start with energy, and then we will also talk about social transition, and I can read you this sentence. The energy transition is pathway toward transformation of global energy sector from fossil-based to zero carbon by the second half of the century, because we need to do that really fast if we want to limit climate change. We cannot stop climate change, we can just limit. And it's hard, its need to reduce energy-related CO2 emissions to limit climate change. Decarbonization of energy sector requires urgent action on the global scale, and while a global energy transition is underway, further action is needed to reduce carbon emission and mitigate the effect of climate change. And yeah, you heard this transition, but there is no social aspects of anywhere here, and it's happening slowly in Europe. But even now with energy crisis, it's unfortunately some countries announce they will reopen their coal mines, and they will use even more some fossil fuels, and we will see how it's happening. But also it's socially not really inclusive, and we can imagine, yeah, this energy transition, it's happening like there is maybe 3 models of this, and we already talk about that. Like we will do everything same, but we will be a little bit more greener. Like I put this picture of car, but we can do whatever. We will still use the cars, but we will have the electric one or something like that. Even we see that we have some little bit bigger problem than just we need to be something greener, or you have even some theoreticians who are telling we will continue with growth. Even European Union official telling you we will continue with growth, and we'll have even more of these cars, but they will be greener and electric one. Even whatever green you want to produce, you still need some resources, and even sometimes even more resources. We spend, nowadays, for example, hotels are much more energy efficient, but actually standards of hotel industry also increase, that they on the end they're spending even more resources. And this is also a problem with that, and we don't have enough resources, I think, to have everything greener. And we will talk a little bit later about lithium, or if we want all these cars, then we need to dig something, or we need to dig somewhere in Bolivia or somewhere else And yeah, I think we need to think maybe on this way, that we need less and different. Instead, all these cars, I use just an example of cars, we need different kind of transportation. We need much more sustainable ways of public transport, I don't know, self-efficient transport, or of course we will still have cars in the future probably, but we need to think on the different way. You know, like even less than 100 years ago, cars almost didn't exist in the cities, and people were afraid that they could not, how cities are expanding, they will never manage to clean the streets from horse shit, actually, because there is more and more horses which are used for transport. And then they were super happy when cars are invented, like, oh, we solve one problem, but then we have much more bigger problem with cars and with whole pollution, but not only pollution which they cause, but taking of space. Well, actually, most space in cities today are reserved for cars, for parking of cars and for moving the cars. Actually, whole our cities and everything, it's built only for cars. Imagine that we have streets much more liberate for other means of transport. Even I'm biking in Belgrade, and even I have a feeling that drivers of cars hate me. But it is like that, because why I'm doing this, why am I different? And this is one how maybe just energy transition could work, and I can also read you, maybe it's easier, I don't know how it's visible. Just transition, it's framework developed by trade unions and movements to encompass an range of social inventions needed to secure workers' rights and livelihoods when economics are shifting to sustainable production, primarily combating climate change and protecting biodiversity. In Europe, advocates for just transition want to unite social and climate justice. For example, for coal workers in coal-dependent developing regions who lack employment opportunities beyond the coal. And this is one of the things that we need to have this strong social movement in ecological and in energy transition, because obviously or not obviously we don't want to people stay without their jobs. We have some regions in Serbia, but also all over our region, which are completely coal dependent, and people live there from mining coal, and they're paying this mining of coal with their lives and with their health and everything, and they deserve to have decent jobs which are much more greener, and not just to coal power plants or some other industry which is polluting, and to leave people to, I don't know, to have social catastrophe, for example, in Lazarevac, where it's like 80% of people dependent from coal jobs. And we need to find solution how to use that people and how to give them a meaningful job. And yeah, this is question, there is a lot of times we need green jobs, and you heard politicians who are talking, or a lot of others say we will open this or that green jobs. And mostly in media, and when they talk about green jobs, they think about jobs which are connected with environmental protection and ecology or something. But I think green jobs are much more than that. I don't believe that some job can be green if you work for minimal wage, or if you work with some kind of temporary contract which will end next week or something, and you are all the time afraid that you will lose your job and others. You need to have strong social support, and also together with this more ecological job. But for me, I think green jobs are a lot of jobs which we need actually in this society, but not only connected with ecology, but also jobs in the educational system, in healthcare system, in all this. it's obviously to everyone, especially during this crisis of COVID and everything, that we need much more better healthcare system or better educational system, and to invest more in education and this. And this is question from which sectors we want to de-invest and in which to invest. And yeah, because a lot of times they are talking that there is not enough money for that, but you know, for example, American military, it's spending enough money that you can have whole energy transition, green energy transition. And imagine all countries how much spending for military purposes. And even, unfortunately, with all this war which is happening in Europe, we have countries which are increasing their military budgets. And you know, when they are increasing military budgets, they are decreasing some other budgets for education or for some other things. And I want to tell you a little bit about democratization of energy sector, and because I think democracy is one of the crucial value, if we want to have any kind of green transition and social ecological transition. And why I think that renewable sources of energy are much more better than fossil fuels. It's not only because this carbon emission, it's also part of that, but how they are built. You know, when you build a coal power plant, you need to have hierarchical management of this. You cannot have, it's really hard to have common ownership and common decision making on how it's work one coal power plant. It's similar with nuclear power plant. You have to have some chief engineer, then some assistants, then the whole hierarchy of that. And actually renewables and especially solar power are giving us this opportunity for democratization, and people can see how energy is produced, and because lower cost, people can have ownership in this energy, and people when they have ownership in something, that they much more appreciate that, and you have much more or less this alienation from production of energy, and yeah. But also this is happening with renewables, because most of renewables in Serbia, but in other region country, are owned by big foreign corporations, especially in the last few years that they built a lot of new wind power plants in Serbia, but everything is built with foreign capital, without using domestic workforce, without increasing this educational level and level of knowledge. I'm not against like foreign capital or something like that, but I'm just thinking how people can use. I'm samely against this domestic capital, and for me it would be perfect if we can have much more common ownership in energy, but also in other things. And actually we can do this with the different ways of organizing, and especially I think cooperative organizing is really good. And actually whole our region have this long history of cooperatives. Here in Vojvodina near Bački Petrovac, I think it was second oldest cooperative in Europe. First it's open in UK, and then second in I think 19th century it's open in Vojvodina. And actually most of energy produced from renewables in Germany is coming from energy cooperatives and from small ownership of people who have on their rooftops solar panel. And I think this is also opportunity to have much more democratized society, because mostly when we talk here about democracy, at least when you listen to the media, they just talk about democracy, voting, oh, we have a lack of democracy, but only on this highest level. But we have a lack of democracy on every level actually, but we also on some levels people are not even participate so much. Even when you can participate on lower level, people don't want to participate, and then they're crying why there is no enough democracy on highest level. And yeah, maybe this one slide how also renewable energy sources are becoming cheaper and cheaper with their mass production. Before this was pretty expensive, and now it's becoming more and more cheaper, and it's almost same like price of using fossil fuels. And now we are coming. Sorry, did you want to take question of technology, and we had also this question during the exercise. Let's see. And yeah, we already mentioned this nature of technology. I also agree. I don't remember who said that, but there is technology. It's not good or evil. It's up to people how they use. A lot of things which are invented for military purposes are used for really good reasons later, but a lot of things which are invented for, I don't know, healthcare or something are later used for military purposes to kill people. And this is question of technology, how society we will build and how this society will use technology. But also I also agree with someone who told today that we already have almost enough technology to have transformation. We don't need to sit and wait to someone bring us some new technology or something. And with this waiting for new technology, it's also a question for which technology today are most money are spent. And actually it's most this private money are spent in some technology which are just bringing money. It's not which are helping people so much, because you know most of money nowadays in pharmacy industry it's spent in some pharmacy things which will cure baldness, not in some really needed things. Okay, some people have problem maybe with baldness, and I understand, but I think we much more need something which cure cancer and some other things, but it's also because this for baldness it's bringing fast profit and all other things. And yeah, we have also one more problem with technology. It's this Yevnosov paradox. This Yevnosov, he was physicist and philosopher from United Kingdom. He lived like in 20th century, even in 19th century. I'm not completely sure. But he found this paradox that every time when we invented some more efficient technology, we didn't spend less resources, but actually we increase how much we spend these resources, which on individual level sounds not logical. You know, if you have more efficient, I don't know, air condition, you will spend less energy, you think. But actually, we are not acting completely like that. Even on individual level, you will then want to have less temperature or something, but also on collective level, in level of system of capitalism, we always push for more growth. You know, now we can extract, like, I don't know, more copper from some mine. Let's dig more mine, then have more copper, and then sell that and be more richer, or blah blah blah. And this is a problem with technology, that only technology will not save us. I am not advocating that we should abandon technology, but we should rethink about technology. And I think we need some simple technology which is actually also efficient, and because this kind of technology not leading to alienation to people, that people don't understand technology. You know, for me, I think bicycle is perfect technology, because people can see and they understand how something is work, because much more people understand how bicycle work than how car work or something. Of course, we need something faster than bicycle, but then still we can have trains and some other collective. And yeah, I put here lithium, but I will talk also later about lithium. And if you want to hold this green technology, transformation, we will need much more lithium because demand for lithium is growing, and it's question only way how to save us and to not dig all this lithium or any other resources. It's just to reduce our demands and degrowth. Yeah, someone also mentioned this about smart cities and other, because a lot of times when you heard from the different liberals and they're talking like how this digitalization and smart city will be solution, how to reduce our energy footprint, how everything will be digital and all other things. But we need to keep in mind that everything what is digital, it also exists in real physical world. It's not like that this is only exist in digital world. Someone mentioned your email which you sent, it also exists somewhere in physical world. There is some really huge server which are releasing a lot of heats and a lot of other pollution somewhere, I don't know, in USA or in some other country where all these data are stored. And I think today, like only for the servers and for data keeping, in USA they're spending like 5% of produced electricity, and this will just increase in the future how we are going to digitalizing more things. And this is also one of the questions how to reduce that, because if we want to have everything digitalized, then we will need to spend much more energy, and how to work on that. But also this with digitalization, it's a question of privacy and how to keep your privacy and data protection. And also, I'll go back again to energy, we have problem with energy poverty. And even 2010 World Economic Forum defined energy poverty as the lack of access to sustainable modern energy services and products. Like more than 1 billion of people still doesn't have electricity in the world. And we also need to think a little bit how much we are privileged. A lot of people, they don't have any kind of access to drinkable water or everything. And this question of energy poverty will be, this winter will probably affect also Europe because whole war situation, and we will have lack of energy. But we have, mostly we talk about this energy poverty, about winter energy poverty, but more and more we have energy demands are increasing also during the summer, because we need this air cooling devices and to heat, to use this energy. And for example, in my flat I'm spending more energy during the summer than during the winter, because I have this central heating system, and I'm not spending so much energy during the winter, but during the summer I need to use air conditioning from time to time. Even I'm trying to use only when it's necessity, but still when it's 40 degrees you need if you have. Or I don't know what will happen with my cat. Sure. And yeah, a lot of times there is this talk how we will decouple GDP growth and CO2 emission and a lot of other things. But this is, you can follow, you see how these two lines are going almost together from time. And this is price of actually oil and price of food, and they're all the time connected to each other, and they're following each other. And this will also be problem, because this energy poverty and lack of energy, it's bringing also to some people will starve without food, and we will have even bigger problem with hungriness. Even today we have like more than 800 million people in the world which have problem with hungriness. They don't have enough calories to eat every day. And we have still kids and old people who are dying from starvingness. And this will even more increase. And yeah, we need, because that's complete socio-economical and ecological transformation, because a lot of times I'm mostly focused on ecological things where people are asking me how to change only ecological, but it's not possible without social and economical change. And you see, this is mostly these three circles you saw as, I'm losing my words, as for sustainable development. And I will give you also critique of sustainable development. It's even when you heard sustainable and development, it's a little bit oxymoron. Can you be sustainable if you develop all the time and grow? But it's also, it's word which is used so many times that it doesn't have any meaning. You know, in every possible document of our government or any other government, you have, if they want something ecological, they will put, we will work on sustainable development. This will lead to sustainable development. And what is meaning, no one even know what. And by sustainable development, firstly, when they use this Brundtland Commission, this means that we will spend enough, but we will leave space for future generation and for people who will get born in the future. But obviously, we are not doing this as whole system. We are spending more, and this means that we are taking from future generation. And it's a big question who will funding and how to finance this social